My stepfather hit me in front of everyone on my 18th birthday because I refused to move out of the house, but the house was legally mine. It was the morning of my 18th birthday, though I barely felt like celebrating. The house was already alive with noise, plates in the kitchen clinking, mom humming a cheerful tune, my little sister's excited chatter. I wandered down the hallway in last night's pajamas, rubbing sleep from my eyes. 18. Legally, the house was mine now. Since I'd saved up and paid off the mortgage, everything belonged to me. But to them, especially my stepfather, it was still their territory. I pressed my palm against the cool glass of the front door. Outside, the day spread wide and bright, sunlight dancing across the lawn, birds fluttering. It all felt like a cruel joke. Inside, the warmth of family buzzed in my ears, but I sensed the tension under everything. I'd made my choice weeks ago. I wasn't packing up my life and moving out. It was my home, after all. But that decision stirred things already tense under the surface. I poured a cup of coffee in the kitchen while Mom fussed over breakfast. Her voice softened to a coo as she greeted me, but I caught a sharp glance from Dad, my stepfather, as he turned away, clearing his throat. He stayed silent as I fixed myself a bowl of cereal and buttered toast. The air smelled of vanilla and fresh bread. Perfect birthday smells. Yet it felt like walking into a minefield. My sister, Emma, danced into the kitchen wearing a bright yellow dress I'd picked for her. She was 9 and full of sunshine, her smile unwavering. She wrapped me in a tight hug. "Happy birthday," she chirped. "You're finally okay to drive." I laughed, brushing her hair out of her face. Her innocence made everything twist inside me. I laced my fingers through hers and squeezed her palm. "Thanks, kiddo." Mom set a plate before me. "I got your favorite pancakes," she said, voice gentle. She slid a buttered pancake topped with strawberries and whipped cream across to me. She wore a look I recognized, pride mixed with worry. She'd known what I planned to do. I wasn't moving out. Mom had helped me sign papers making the house mine weeks ago. Dad had lost it, not quietly. The flip of the front door caught my attention. Guests started trickling in, neighbors, family friends. They smiled when they saw me, calling, "Happy birthday." I forced a polite grin. Inside, I felt the walls closing in. Every glance from Dad felt like a loaded gun. He said nothing, but I felt the words. He was furious. "This house, my house, was as much his as mine," he acted, "and he would make me pay." We gathered in the living room, balloons tied to the chandelier, "Happy 18th," banners lining the walls. I sunk onto the couch between Emma and Mom. Dad hovered behind us, arms folded. When he spoke, his voice was soft, but cold. "Ready to cut the cake?" he asked. I nodded, though I didn't much care about cake. I picked up the knife and felt its weight. Mom passed me the cake of vanilla, with buttercream icing, and I closed my eyes for a moment. I tried to breathe. I reminded myself, it was my day. No argument. No tension. Just family. My hand trembled as I made the first slice. A neighbor's toddler toddled forward, and I chuckled, inviting her to snag a piece. Others followed, filling plates. The chatter was light, talk of summer jobs, weekend plans. But I couldn't quiet the knot in my chest. Dad's eyes, still fixed on me, were hard. Everyone else seemed blissfully unaware. Finally, he cleared his throat again. "So, planning any big celebration tonight?" he asked, voice clipped. My heart skipped. I met his gaze. I don't know. I might just hang around here." He stepped closer. His expression shifted, his brow furrowed. He looked past Mom, at me. "But," he started. He hesitated. The room went silent. I recognized that moment, the moment of confrontation. Almost like fireworks before the flash. Mom narrowed her eyes. She opened her mouth, but Dad spoke first. "You can't keep living here. You're 18 now. You should be out there, making a life for yourself." Voices ping-ponged. Mom said gently, "He owns the place." Dad cut her off. "That doesn't matter. That doesn't give him the right to just stay like some kid." He looked at me. What kind of message is that sending him? That he doesn't have to take responsibility? I swallowed. My throat burned. I'm not a kid. I paid for this house, for months. I hesitated. Guests shifted nervously. Emma squeezed my hand. My grip tightened. I forced my voice steady. "It's my home. I'll stay. I'll pay utilities. I'll do my part." Dad shook his head. That's not the point. He reached over and touched the cake plate, picking up a piece and tossing it back on the cake. Whipped cream splattering. Gasps rippled through the room. I stared, speechless. He seized the moment of shock. You're not staying, he bellowed. Not under my roof. A silence more charged than thunder filled the room. I stood up. The cake plate crashed to the floor. Glass shattered. My palms stung from pressure. I stared at him. This is my house. He snorted. If it's your house, you can live somewhere else. A tremor ran through me. I opened my mouth to respond. Guests hushed. Mom's face flushed, but she didn't stop him. I realized what was coming. He swung his hand. I saw it move in slow motion, his palm arching back, and it found my cheek with a sharp crack. A stifled scream rose from Mom, a gasp from Emma, and I felt stars behind my eyelids. Pain exploded across my face. My hand flew up, fingers brushing my cheek that stung on impact. My heart thundered. I shook my head, dazed. The room blurred. He took a menacing step forward, jaw clenched. I stumbled backwards, and people parted around me like water before a boat. Teary, shocked, angry, I felt it all. But most of all, I felt the world rip in two. My 18th birthday detonated, forever changed. The silence after his hand struck my face was louder than any scream I'd ever heard. My cheek burned. Time didn't slow anymore, it froze. Everyone in the room had gone still. No one moved, no one spoke, and for a split second, I thought maybe I'd imagined it. But then I saw my sister's face, her eyes wide with tears, her lower lip trembling. That was all the proof I needed. I didn't cry. I didn't scream or yell. I just stood there, stunned, my breath catching in my throat. My stepfather, Dan, stood over me, chest rising and falling, as if he'd just done something justifiable. He wasn't even hiding it. His hand was still slightly raised. He looked down at me like I was the one who had crossed the line. Then Mom stepped between us. Dan, she whispered, almost like she was afraid to say his name too loud. You hit him. He didn't reply. He didn't need to. His silence was louder than anything he could have said. His mouth was a tight line, his eyes narrowed. She turned to me. Go upstairs, she said softly. I didn't move. Please, she added, her voice shaking. Just go. There was a part of me that wanted to scream at her right then ask her why she wasn't throwing him out instead, why I was the one who had to leave the room. But I could see the storm behind her eyes. She wasn't protecting him. She was afraid. Afraid of what he might do if he stayed in the room with me any longer. I stepped over the broken plate on the floor and walked toward the stairs. People parted from me, still silent, eyes avoiding mine. As I passed Emma, she reached for my hand again, but Mom gently pulled her back. Go, she repeated. I walked up the stairs slowly, like every step was a burden. At the top, I paused, looking down. Dan had turned away, facing the kitchen counter, his fists clenched. No one had said a word to him. No one had told him to leave. I guess that's what hurt the most. When I got to my room, I shut the door gently. I didn't slam it. I didn't throw anything or punch a wall. I just sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the wall, my cheeks still red and pulsing. My hands trembled in my lap. I pressed my palms together to try to stop the shaking, but it didn't help. I don't know how long I sat there. The sounds downstairs were muted. I heard the front door open and close a few times, some guests quietly leaving, I assumed. There were no goodbyes. No more happy birthday yes. At some point, Emma came upstairs and knocked softly on the door. Come in, I said, my voice hoarse. She slipped inside, eyes red and puffy. She held something behind her back, a folded piece of paper. I made you a card, she said, holding it out. I took it. The cover was a drawing of me and her holding balloons. She'd written, Happy 18th birthday. You're the best brother ever, in bubbly handwriting. I smiled, but it didn't quite reach my eyes. Thank you, I whispered. She sat beside me on the bed and leaned her head on my shoulder. He shouldn't have done that, she said quietly. I know. You're still staying, right? She asked, lifting her head to look at me. I don't know. You have to. You said this is your house. I looked at her for a long moment. She needed me to stay, for stability, for protection. But I didn't feel safe here anymore. Not with him downstairs. Not with Mom too afraid to pick a side. "I'll try," I said finally. But things might be different now. She didn't understand, not fully. But she nodded, hugged me again, and slipped out of the room. I heard her close the door gently behind her. That night, I didn't come back down for dinner. I lay on my bed, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed a few times, text messages from a few friends who'd been at the party, some asking if I was okay, others just shocked. I didn't reply. Around midnight, there was a soft knock at my door again. This time it was Mom. "Can I come in?" I didn't answer right away. Finally, I said, "Yeah." She stepped inside slowly, her expression unreadable. She didn't bring anything with her, no food, no apology cake, nothing. Just her and the weight of the day. She sat on the edge of the bed like I had earlier inside. "I'm so sorry." "I didn't think he'd do that," I said, my voice flat. "I didn't either." "You didn't stop him." I froze. I was scared, too. That hit me harder than the slap. She looked at me, eyes glassy. "I didn't protect you. And I'm sorry for that more than anything else." I didn't speak. "You have every right to stay here," she continued. "It is your house. You earned it. I know that. And I want you to stay. I just don't know how to make this safe for you." I turned to her. "You could tell him to leave." Her eyes dropped. "I want to. But it's not that simple." "It is that simple," I said, louder now. "You just don't want to do it." She flinched. "He's your sister's father. He's been in our lives for a long time. And I'm your son." Tears rolled down her cheeks now. "I know." Neither of us spoke for a while. Finally, she stood up. "I'm going to sleep at your aunt's for a few nights. With Emma. I'll talk to him. Figure things out." "Okay." She reached out like she wanted to hug me, then thought better of it and let her hand fall. After she left, I stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned. Then I got up, walked to the mirror, and looked at my cheek. It was still red, the shape of his hand faint but visible. A birthday memory that would never fade. I woke up to silence. For a moment, I wasn't sure if I'd actually slept or just passed out from sheer exhaustion. The sun streamed through the blinds, casting soft stripes across the floor. My eyes felt swollen, my body heavy. I blinked slowly, remembering everything in pieces. The birthday. The shouting. The slap. The silence was different now. Not the tense, waiting to explode kind. It was empty. No footsteps on the stairs, no kitchen sounds, no humming from Mom. For a second, I wondered if maybe I'd dreamed it all. But when I ran my fingers across my cheek and felt the lingering soreness, I knew it had happened. I sat up slowly and glanced at my phone. A single message from Mom. "Took Emma to your aunt's like I said. We'll call later. Please stay safe." I read it 3 times. There was a coldness to it, not intentionally, but more like someone tiptoeing through broken glass. She was giving me space. Or maybe she didn't know what else to say. I threw on a hoodie and jeans, then padded down the stairs, my footsteps echoing. The living room was a wreck, half-deflated balloons, the remnants of the cake still on the table, paper plates scattered like an abandoned battlefield. A smear of strawberry filling marked the floor where the cake had fallen. I hadn't even cleaned it up last night. Part of me had been waiting to see if he would. Dan was nowhere to be seen. The house felt hollow without Mom and Emma, but I was almost grateful for it. I walked into the kitchen. A dirty mug sat in the sink. His mug. The one with the world's #1 dad logo that he used like a badge of honor. I almost threw it against the wall but stopped myself. Instead, I poured a glass of water and stood by the window, looking out at the backyard. Everything out there looked the same, calm, still, ordinary. But nothing was ordinary anymore. Around noon, the front door opened. I stiffened, setting the glass down slowly. Dan walked in like it was just another Sunday. He didn't look at me. He tossed his keys onto the table, took off his jacket, and headed for the fridge. "You're still here," he said, like he was commenting on the weather. "Where else would I be?" I replied, my voice flat. He pulled out a soda and cracked it open. "Thought maybe you'd have gone to your aunt's too. With your mom." I turned to face him. "Why?" So you could have the place to yourself again? He took a sip. This is my house too. No, it's not, I said quietly. It hasn't been for a while. You know that. He finally looked at me. You think a couple of signatures on a paper makes you a man? You think paying off some mortgage gives you the right to talk down to me in front of everyone? I wasn't talking down to you. I was standing up for myself. His jaw twitched. You embarrassed me. No, I said. You embarrassed yourself. He set the soda can down a little too hard. Don't test me. I stood still. What are you going to do? Hit me again? His eyes narrowed. Don't tempt me. I didn't flinch this time. Go ahead, Dan. Hit me. But I promise you, the next time it happens, I won't stay quiet. I won't just walk away. He didn't move. He just stared at me, breathing hard. I saw it then, behind the anger, behind the posturing, there was something else. Fear. Not fear of me, but fear of losing control. For years, I'd lived under his rules, accepted his temper, his subtle manipulation. But now, standing there, I realized something. I wasn't scared of him anymore. That scared him. I'm calling Mom, I said, walking toward the stairs. You don't tell me what to do in this house, he snapped. I'm not telling you anything, I said over my shoulder. I'm telling her. In my room, I closed the door and dialed. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, she said, sounding tired. He's here, I said. There was a pause. Did he touch you again? No. But he's acting like nothing happened. Like I'm the one who ruined everything. I'm coming back. No, I said quickly. Stay with Emma. She doesn't need to see this again. I heard her exhale. I don't know what to do, honey. You do, I said. You just don't want to. And I get it. It's scary. But I'm not leaving. He has to. She didn't answer right away. Mom, I said softly, if you want us to be safe, if you want Emma to be safe, you have to choose. More silence. I'll talk to him, she said at last. Today. Stay in your room if you need to. Don't engage. I'm not scared of him, I said. I know, she whispered. But I still don't want you getting hurt again. When I hung up, I felt lighter and heavier all at once. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the phone, thinking about everything he'd said, everything he hadn't said. The line he'd crossed wasn't just physical. He'd broken something that couldn't be fixed with an apology or a few days apart. That night, I stayed in my room. I heard the front door open again around 6. Mom's voice drifted up the stairs. Then Dan's. They weren't shouting, but their voices were sharp, clipped. I pressed my ear to the door but couldn't catch much. A few words here and there unacceptable, can't go on, he's a kid, no he's not. Then, silence again. I heard footsteps coming up the stairs. Mom knocked once. Come in. She opened the door, and for the first time in a long time, she looked like herself. Like my mom, not someone hiding behind someone else's anger. He's packing a bag, she said. I blinked. Really? She nodded. He's going to stay with a friend. For now. I told him this wasn't a request. I stood, unsure what to say. I don't know what happens next, she admitted. But for now, you don't have to leave. You shouldn't have to. I felt something swell in my chest. Relief. Maybe hope. Thank you, I said. She stepped forward and pulled me into a hug. I let her. For the first time in what felt like years, I didn't pull away. Dan left that night. I didn't go downstairs to see him go, and he didn't come up to say goodbye, not that I expected him to. I heard the front door open, his heavy footsteps on the porch, then the sound of his car starting and driving away into the darkness. The house didn't cheer or sigh in relief. It just exhaled. A long, overdue breath that had been trapped in its walls for far too long. I went down a few minutes later. Mom was standing in the kitchen, arms crossed, eyes red but dry. There were 2 mugs on the table. One was hers. The other, Dan's old favorite, the one with the #OneDad on the side, was shattered in the sink. I didn't ask who had broken it. I think we both knew. He's gone, she said simply. For how long? I don't know. She looked at me, then out the window. Maybe for good. Maybe not. But for now, it's your house. I made that clear. We stood in silence for a moment. I think I need to clean up, I said. She nodded. I'll help. We didn't speak as we picked up the deflated balloons, tossed the melted cake into the trash, scrubbed away the red stain on the floor. It was a strange kind of bonding, quiet, tense, but honest. Like we were slowly stitching something back together without saying a word. That night, I stayed downstairs and watched TV while she made tea. It was almost normal. Almost. I want to talk to someone, she said eventually, settling into the armchair across from me. Like a therapist? She nodded. For me. And for Emma. I looked at her for a long time. That's good. I should have done it years ago, she admitted. Back when things first started, slipping. I didn't ask what she meant by slipping. I already knew. Dan hadn't always been cruel, not openly. In the early years, he was charming, the kind of guy who brought flowers home and made everyone laugh. But there were moments, small at first, where the charm twisted into control. Where decisions stopped being shared and became dictated. Where silence was safer than speaking. Where Mom started to shrink, a little more each year. He always thought he was the hero, I said quietly. The man of the house. She looked down at her tea. And I let him believe that. You were trying to keep things together. She nodded, slowly. But sometimes, keeping things together means keeping them broken. Neither of us had the right words for what we were feeling. So we just sat in the quiet glow of the TV, letting the silence say what we couldn't. The next morning, Emma came back. She ran into the house like it had been weeks instead of 2 days. Is he gone? She asked me, breathless, still wearing her pink backpack. I nodded. For now. She looked relieved but cautious. Is it safe? Yes, I said. And I meant it. She hugged me so tightly I had to kneel down to catch her. I missed you. I missed you too, Bug. We spent the rest of the morning playing card games at the dining table. Mom joined us after a while. She looked more rested than she had in days, though her eyes were still tired. Healing was happening, but slowly. Later that week, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Dan. Not a card. Not even a proper envelope. Just a folded sheet of lined notebook paper with my name scrawled across it. I stood in the kitchen holding it for a long time before opening it. I didn't mean to do what I did. I was angry, and I let it take over. I know you hate me right now, and maybe that won't change. But I want you to know that I regret what happened. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope someday you'll understand that I made a mistake. One I wish I could take back. That was it. No dear, no love. Just a clumsy attempt at closure that didn't feel like enough. I folded it back up and tucked it into the back of a drawer, under some old receipts. I didn't know why I kept it. Maybe to remind myself that even when people leave marks on you, you still get to decide what to do with them. A few days later, I saw him again. It wasn't planned. I was at the gas station down the road, filling up the car, when I looked up and saw him across the lot, standing by his truck. He saw me, too. For a second, neither of us moved. He gave a slight nod. I didn't return it. I just got back in the car and drove away. That night, I told Mom. She didn't say anything at first, just rubbed her temple like she was trying to think clearly. He's not coming back here, she said finally. I won't let that happen. I believe you. We were different now. All of us. And the difference wasn't in how loud we spoke or how often we saw each other, it was in the space we finally allowed ourselves to claim. Emma started drawing again. She left pictures on my bedroom door. One was a sketch of the three of us, her, me, and Mom, sitting under a tree, smiling. Dan wasn't in it. I didn't mention that to her, and she didn't explain it. She didn't have to. One evening, Mom knocked on my door with a binder in hand. I thought you should see this, she said. Inside were the documents, the title of the house, bank records, my payment logs, even a notarized statement from her affirming my ownership. She placed it on my desk like a peace offering. You don't need to prove anything to me, I said. I know, she replied. But you've earned this. She paused. And I want to ask your permission to keep staying here. Me and Emma. I looked up, surprised. Of course you can. her eyes filled with tears. I just wanted to do it right this time. We hugged, and it felt more real than any hug we'd had in years. Summer passed in quiet waves. The house changed, slowly but definitely. The atmosphere was lighter. Not cheerful, exactly, but no longer filled with tension that could snap at any moment. We got used to the sound of Emma's laughter again, to dinners without walking on eggshells, to waking up and not worrying if someone was already in a bad mood downstairs. Some days, it almost felt like the slap never happened. Other days, it was all I could think about. It lived under the surface of everything. In how Mom kept checking on me a little too often. In how Emma would flinch if she heard a loud sound. In the way I started locking my bedroom door at night without even thinking. We were healing, but healing is rarely clean. It's jagged, full of false starts and little regressions. And some days, I found myself looking out the window and wondering, what if he just showed up again? But he didn't. He stayed gone. About a month after the incident, Mom and I sat on the back porch with cups of tea and a blanket across our legs. Emma was inside, drawing something for school. I filed for a separation, she said, voice calm. I turned to look at her. Are you serious? She nodded. I talked to a lawyer. I'm not rushing it. But I needed to start. I didn't say anything right away. I just stared at the yard, at the spot where Dan used to stand to grill on weekends like nothing was wrong. Was it hard? I asked. She sighed. Yes. And no. Hard because, well, part of me still feels like I failed. Like I let him turn into that and didn't stop it. But also, I know it's the right thing. For me. For you. For Emma. I set my mug down. You didn't fail. I did, she said softly. But I'm not going to keep failing. That's the difference. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. I think I'm still angry. That's okay. Like, really angry. I know. She reached over and placed her hand over mine. You have every right to be. There was a long pause. I'm scared of being like him, I admitted, almost a whisper. She looked surprised. You're nothing like him. I mean, what if something snaps in me one day? What if I yell, or lose control? What if I end up hurting someone without meaning to? She shook her head. That's the difference, you care. You're already watching yourself. Dan didn't care. He only cared about control. I didn't reply, but her words settled deep inside me. Later that night, I sat in my room, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily. I thought about everything I'd learned in the weeks since the birthday that had changed everything. I'd learned that silence can be a form of survival, but so can speaking out. That owning a house doesn't always mean feeling at home, but taking a stand for yourself does. That family isn't about blood or titles. It's about who stands by you when everything breaks. And that sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't fighting back, it's staying. I started writing more, too. Journaling. Not for school, not for anyone else. Just me. I wrote about the night it happened, about the slap, about the shame and rage and betrayal. And I wrote about the morning after, the decision to stay, the moments when healing started. Some days, I still feel like I'm living in the shadow of what happened. But more often now, I feel like I'm living past it. One afternoon in early September, I found Emma in the garage. She was holding a dusty cardboard box. What's that? I asked. She opened it and pulled out an old family photo. One of the few we had where Dan was smiling, holding her on his shoulders. You want to keep it? I asked. She studied it for a long moment, then shook her head and placed it back in the box. I remember him better without the pictures. We donated some of his things, tossed the rest. His presence faded from the house little by little, like peeling wallpaper. And somewhere in the middle of all that, I stopped waking up with a tightness in my chest. I started painting the walls a different color. I rearranged the furniture. I reclaimed the space. My space. One evening, about 3 months after everything, Mom, Emma, and I had dinner out on the porch. We were eating takeout, nothing fancy. The sun was setting, and Emma had just told a story about something silly her friend said in class. We laughed. Real, full laughter. I don't think we've laughed like that in a while, Mom said, smiling. Feels good, I replied. She looked around. This is a good house. I nodded. Yeah. I think it is. She reached out and clinked her glass against mine. Happy very belated birthday. Emma lifted her juice box. To my awesome brother. I chuckled. To a fresh start. And for the first time since that night, I believed it. Thank you for watching the video. Like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.